Welcome back. You're watching Good Morning India. I'm Sorul Merotra Kapoor. It's 9 a.m. by the clock. It means where we bring you through all the headlines. India is now in the third wave. The Omicron is the main variant. 75% of the cases are coming in from metros alone, like Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru. All these details coming in from the top task force member. Delhi, meanwhile, reports 4,000 new cases. And Mumbai, the cases are up 8,000. 90% are asymptomatic, and the civic body has said schools and classes will now shut except the 10th and the 12th standard. The BMC commissioner says that if cases go beyond 20,000, there will be a lockdown. In the capital, the Delhi Chief Minister has tested positive, says have mild symptoms and isolated at home. Over the past 1 week, he has crisscrossed between 3 poll-bound states. Delhi, meanwhile, has 4,000 new COVID cases in the past 24 hours. The DDMA is meeting in today to decide on whether fresh curves will now get in. According to the GRAP, it should be a red alert. Over 40 lakh teenagers in the age group of 15 to 18 are vaccinated on day one. Prime Minister says it's an important step forward in protecting the youth against COVID-19. Mumbai Police Cyber Cell detains a 21-year-old engineering student from Bengaluru in connection with the app that was auctioning Muslim women online. China builds a bridge across a part of Pangong Lake in Ladakh. This gives them the ability to quickly move soldiers and heavy weaponry. So those were the headlines at this hour. The big breaking news this morning is that the Delhi Chief Minister, Arvind Kejriwal, has tested positive. He just tweeted a little while ago saying that he's got mild symptoms and he's isolating as at home, and he requests everybody who's been in touch with him in the past couple of days to go and get themselves tested. But people who've been in touch with him, well, that's a long list as of this time, because Arvind Kejriwal, remember, has been crisscrossing several poll-bound states over the past 1 week. Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, even Punjab, and several places seen without a mask as well. So how exactly is this going to pan out is something we'll keep an eye on. Have a look at those pictures as well that we've got for you from Lucknow, Patiala, Chandigarh. Sonakshi joins us for the very latest on this story. Sonakshi, Arvind Kejriwal testing positive, isolating at home on a day actually that the DDMA, which he's part of, is likely to take a very crucial decision on what will be the fresh curbs in the national capital.
Well, absolutely concerning and worrying news coming in at this point that the Delhi Chief Minister has tested positive for COVID. He has tweeted this himself. He has made it clear that he has very mild symptoms. And of course, as the first step of precaution, of being precautious, he is isolating himself at home. Now, this is not the first time the Delhi Chief Minister has had a COVID scare. Remember, in 2020 as well, he did isolate himself and got tested, but he tested negative. So there was a COVID scare earlier. He had also isolated himself once again when his wife tested positive for COVID. Now, the thing is, the news that is coming at this point is also coming at a time when Delhi is seeing a huge spike in COVID cases and also a spike in the Omicron cases. And the very fact that the Delhi Health Minister yesterday said that 81% of those samples between 30 and 31st of December of COVID tests were all Omicron cases. They were found to be with Omicron positive. It is worrying, it is concerning also at a time when political parties, not just the Aam Aadmi Party, but all political parties in poll-bound states are back-to-back rallying and campaigning. They are on their campaign trails, and we have seen visuals of most of these political leaders flouting the basic COVID rules and norms, which is a mask. And of course, in political campaigns and rallies, there are no social distancing. There is no, because it goes for a complete toss. And we have been seeing those visuals every single day. The question is that today, when the DDMA is going to meet, the Chief Minister was expected to be a part of this meeting to discuss for Delhi what could be the further restrictions, what could be the further curbs that Delhi could be placed with, because Delhi is seeing a huge spike, not just in cases but also in the positivity rate. Remember, just yesterday we reported over 4,000 COVID cases and our positivity rate right now is over 6.5%. As per the GRAP, which is the Graded Response Action Plan, if we are above 5% for more than 2 days, the positivity rate, if we are at more than 5%, and if we are reporting over 16,000 cases in a cumulative of 1 week, then then there should be a red alert put in place. But technically right now we have still not reached the level of red alert, but that does not discount the fact that Delhi should be seeing more of restrictions and curbs at a time when the cases are spreading and surging.
Let's bring out what Satyendra Jain has also said on how many Omicron cases we actually have in the capital and what exactly the trends are like. At the moment, we know that the city has added about 4,000 COVID cases on Monday. The positivity rate has jumped to 6.46%. That's quadruple really in just the past 1 week as well. That's what the last health bulletin had also said. The health minister, meanwhile, saying that cases are rising fast, but people are not getting seriously ill. The DDMA meeting, like Sonakshi was also mentioning, will take place today around noon, and that's when we can expect fresh curbs to actually come in. But will that really happen? Because the last indication that came in from the Delhi Chief Minister himself, he seemed to indicate that only once the hospitalizations go up will we see fresh curbs. But Sonakshi, if we go back to sort of the graded response action plan that Delhi has put into place, we should be into red alert. That would include things like salons shutting down, that would include the capacity for metro going down even further. Is that correct?
Well, absolutely. If there are further restrictions placed and if it is at the level of a red alert, that only means that there will be a curfew for movement for people in the city. There will be stricter curbs and timings. Basically, the red alert is the last level of the graph. There is the yellow alert, there's amber, there's orange, and then there's red alert. The red alert being the most severe form of restriction. So at the red alert, you can expect literally every non-essential, essential service, non-essential activity to be put on a hold. They could be, the capacities will of course decrease for metros and basically public transport. But the question, Sonal, is will the Delhi government be able to take this decision to place a red alert in the national capital? A bigger question is, will the Delhi government, can it afford to do something like this at a time, especially when the party themselves are campaigning and rallying back to back in poll-bound states?
Well, that's right. We're not talking about a complete lockdown here, but looking at issues like weekend curfews, 100% work from home for non-essential services as well to be shutting down, construction work to stop, maybe, like I said, salons, etc. to stop functioning. But it is going to be a tricky call. Let's listen in first on what indications Satyendra Jain has for us.
देखिएगा, मैं 2 दिन का जो लास्ट 2 डेज का बता सकता हूँ, उनमें 84% जो पेशेंट थे वो ओमिक्रॉन के थे। 84%। अगर पूरे महीने का निकालते हैं तो फिर वो कम हो जाता है, पूरे महीने की जरूरत नहीं है, क्योंकि ट्रेंड ये आ रहा है कि अब जो केसेस आ रहे हैं वो ज्यादातर ओमिक्रॉन के हैं।
तो अभी के समय में हम कह सकते हैं
जी
100 में 84 केस ओमिक्रॉन।
जी 84% जो पेशेंट जो निकले वो ओमिक्रॉन के निकले।
All right, and staying with news in the national capital, worrying signs already coming in. 23 resident doctors of Safdarjung Hospital have tested positive for COVID-19 in a span of 1 week. Now, the medics at Safdarjung Hospital have mild symptoms and have isolated themselves. That's what a senior doctor said, adding that no case of Omicron has been detected just yet. They are quarantining themselves and no hospitalizations have been required so far as well. Meher Pandey joins us with the very latest. Meher, we know now for sure that we are in midst of a third wave. we know now for sure that Omicron is the dominant strain in the national capital. And the first signs of our healthcare infrastructure getting burdened in a way is not just to look at hospitalizations, but to actually see medics and doctors missing in hospitals, workforce going down, and this is the first of them. Safdarjung now 23 doctors shot.
Yes, Sonal, in the last week, 23 resident doctors at Safdarjung Hospital have tested positive for COVID. We don't yet know if it is Omicron because genome sequencing will be underway, but the results are not out yet. But of course, these are the early signs. But of course, even the sign that a third wave is underway, doctors are testing positive for COVID once again. This is again an indication that, of course, a booster for healthcare workers, which is almost going to happen on the 10th of January. Boosters will be rolled out. There's not much clarity yet on which vaccine will be given to whom, but they will get a booster finally, and this is coming at exactly the right time that cases are spiraling out of control in the national capital and across the country. Omicron is the variant driving this rapid increase in cases from the major metropolitan cities, which are sequencing every single positive case, so testing for whether it is the Omicron variant, the Delta variant or any other variant. This is happening in every metropolitan city, and the indications are that in Delhi and Mumbai, over 80% of all cases are now Omicron. That also means that we are actually undercounting our Omicron cases, because the number of cases which is released by the ministry every morning is showing somewhere around 1,000 cases right now, but the total number of cases in the country is around 38,000. So if 80% of that is Omicron, then the number should actually be much higher. We may not be kind of tracing this Omicron spread as well as we need to be to prepare for it, but of course the crisis is already underway, as we can see from doctors testing positive across the country.
That's right. So we wait to actually see how quickly we're able to tap on these numbers. But this percentage of Omicron being seen in major cities in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bengaluru, etc., is telling us that Omicron has truly arrived and we are in middle of a third wave. Thanks, Meher, for joining us with those numbers. Talking about Mumbai, let's take a look at how the numbers are panning out there. 90% of Mumbai's fresh COVID cases, that's about 8,000. At the moment are asymptomatic. We know that 574 patients have been hospitalized in the past 24 hours, and out of those 574, 71 are on oxygen support. Now, this is a concerning number because so far we kept talking about how Omicron is less severe, not leading to hospitalization. But the jump in hospitalization in Mumbai is now coming out and to 10% hospitalization to day before to about 12% just yesterday. In fact, we spoke to the Mumbai BMC commissioner about this, Iqbal Singh Chahal, and he said that in case the cases cross the 20,000 daily mark, there will be a lockdown.
Is it fair to say that we are now at the starting point or in the middle of a third wave?
Sir, you are right. We are in the beginning of the third wave. Whole of August, September, October, November, our positivity was less than 1%. And for the first time, the positivity in Mumbai went beyond 1% on 21st December. And since then, the climb is steady. And today is day 14. Yeah. And we are at positivity of 17.4%.
Coming specifically to this current surge, this third wave, would you say that it is largely Omicron which is driving it?
You know, I have been taking input of my experts in the state task force. So their opinion is that that Omicron is now 80%. And Delta is now reduced to 20% from its earlier existence. And this 80% also will touch 90% in the next few days. The general consensus was that instead of positivity being a benchmark for putting restrictions or putting a harsh kind of a semi-lockdown, the new yardsticks, unlike the first and the second wave of positivity, should be your hospital beds availability, vacancies, and people oxygen requirement. But if we find that things are going out of control, they go much beyond 20,000, then we have to take call on that.
All right, to Goa now, which has also seen a spike in cases because of the New Year celebrations over there. The positivity rate is 11.11% in Goa, one of the highest that we've seen in the country. Goa will now, after all that massive spread, will see a night curfew come into place. 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. schools and colleges will be shut, and they will remain shut till 26th of January. The Goa government would also enforce curbs on indoor activities. We wait to see what really comes out of that. Meanwhile, a ship which was a cruise ship which has docked in Goa has 66 people on board who have tested positive. The New Year guests on board that cruise ship from Mumbai to Goa has about 2,000 passengers. 66 of them are positive, and now they're taking a call on whether or not those negative should actually deboard that cruise ship and come out. That's something we wait to see. Goa Health Minister, meanwhile, has tweeted to say that authorities will take a call on whether they should be allowed to disembark the ship, those who have tested negative, that is. Well, with that, it's time for a quick break. Coming up on the other side, colleges are now turning out to be new COVID hotspots in Punjab. Details in a moment from now. Welcome back. Let's take a look at the latest coming in from Punjab, where colleges have turned out to be the new COVID hotspot in the poll-bound state of Punjab. Around 100 students of Government Medical College in Patiala tested positive for COVID on Monday. Acting on it now, the district administration held an emergency meeting and asked all students residing in that hostel to leave their rooms immediately. Last week, remember, around 93 students tested positive at another college, the Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology in Patiala, which has already become a cluster of COVID-19. This is what the Punjab minister had to say.
100 के करीब जो है वहाँ पे जो रिपोर्ट आ रही है कि बच्चे जो है वो कोरोना पॉजिटिव हो गए हैं, और वहाँ पे 1000 के करीब हमारे पास बच्चा है जिसको हम हॉस्टल खाली करा के शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं. सिचुएशन अंडर कंट्रोल है और सभी हमने मेडिकल एक्सपर्ट को, डॉक्टर्स को, टीमों को वहाँ लगा दिया गया है और सभी के टेस्ट किए जा रहे हैं.
All right, Ghazali joins us for the very latest on this story. So, Ghazali, two separate colleges where first 100, then 93 kids testing positive. That's a huge cluster of number. These are also, remember, teenagers, a little older kids as well as of this moment. Tell us, what exactly are their symptoms? Do we know if this is Omicron?
See, due to genome testing taking weeks, we can't right now ascertain whether it is Omicron cases or not. But when it comes to the engineering college, you're right, there are teenagers who have tested positive. One video of that college also went viral. That New Year celebrations or party was going on, and later these students were tested positive, though the college authorities deny that they had no role in organizing that party or something. But what has come off yesterday is the government medical college and its hostel students who have tested positive, and many of them are resident doctors there. So that is a big cause of worry, because Patiala anyway is reporting higher number of cases, maximum number of cases in Punjab, and its own health team or the health department is facing all these issues that even doctors are testing positive. So it is testing you can see the health team is also under test due to the rising number of cases with their own doctors testing positive. Now, besides all this, if you see the political rallies are going on, the government has come out with this instruction that only those who are fully vaccinated will have access to public space. But in any road show or public rallies, there is no such checks. The government the Congress party in power, be it Akali Dal, be it Aam Aadmi Party, the BJP is going to hold, the Prime Minister is going to hold a rally tomorrow in Firozpur. Big preparations are going on. So there is no such check in Punjab over who is moving where without any protection or with face mask on or not, because instructions are passed on, but cases are rapidly rising in Punjab. The data suggests that in the last 1 week, the cases have shot like 5 to 6 times, but the testing data also suggests that the testing figures have gone down. That is another cause of worry for Punjab, and the Chief Minister, Mr. Charanjit Singh Channi, is expected to hold an emergency meeting over the issue to sort of take stock of the situation, that what more can be done, whether some curbs will be seriously implemented in Punjab, that needs to be seen.
Wow, so the testing going down, but the numbers still going up. That is a worrying sign indeed. Clusters of colleges where the kids are testing positive, and netas continue to hold political rallies. In fact, one of them, Arvind Kejriwal, tested positive just this morning as well. But talking about numbers, we've got big breaking news coming for you now. The latest numbers have just come in, and that tells us that 37,379 new cases have come up in the past 24 hours. It's a jump of roughly 5,000 cases that have been reported in the past 24 hours. Omicron numbers are 1,892. And at the moment, we know that 766 people have recovered out of that. 1,892 spread across 23 states. Now, Meher Pandey is with us with the latest on this number. Meher, one data after the other, these latest numbers also telling us just one thing: we are in midst of a wave. We need to be more careful. We need to stay indoors until absolutely essential.
Exactly. We have now crossed 1,800 Omicron cases. There are 1,892 Omicron cases exactly, out of which 766 patients have been discharged or have recovered. Now, this number may itself be an undercount, as we have been reporting, because many metropolitan cities are already saying that Omicron is the dominant variant. It has now crossed 80% of it's now accounting for 80% of all COVID cases. And as you can see, there are, in the last 24 hours, 37,379 new cases. This is the highest in a very long time. And out of this, if 80% is actually Omicron, then we are in for some trouble, because as we know, Omicron is a highly transmissible variant. The cases have increased many-fold in just the past few weeks. And,
right, and the Omicron breakup also quite worrying. Maharashtra continues to dominate the chart, 568 cases there. Delhi has 382, followed by Kerala 185, then Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu. So a lot of these states continue to have, also these states are actually testing the most.
Exactly. So many states actually don't have the capacity to be genome sequencing as fast as some others. Maharashtra, Delhi, Kerala have very big genome sequencing labs. So the other states that are reporting fewer cases right now may be doing so because they are not testing as much. Of course, also just RT-PCR testing is higher.
Right. Goa, for example, says it has 5 Omicron cases, but can you really go by that number? Because Goa has a positivity rate of 11.11%. So how exactly are these numbers really adding up? And what exactly is it's telling us is that clearly the numbers are unfolding and increasing at a phenomenal rate, and that tells us that this is a third wave, and that also tells us that Omicron is the dominant strain. We leave it there for the moment. Thanks, Meher, for joining us. With that, we're going to slip into a break. When we come back, we take a look again at these numbers and we decode them with doctors. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The latest numbers have just come in and they continue to rise. We are seeing a phenomenal rise in cases and the highest percentage of the variants which are being calculated, Omicron coming up as more than 80% in samples collected in Delhi, samples collected in Mumbai, also in Bengaluru. What is this telling us? That India is indeed in middle of a third wave, whether or not our politicians would like to admit it. Experts are now coming out to actually say this. The head of the country's vaccine task force told NDTV exactly this, that we are in middle of a third wave now. Cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Kolkata combined have just about 75% share of the infections of the very highly transmissible COVID-19 variant, which is Omicron as well. We've reported over 1,892 Omicron cases. That's the latest figure that has just come in. Maharashtra leading the chart over there with 568, Delhi with 382. But at least these are the two states which are testing. There are several others which are not. Goa, for example, has about 5 Omicron cases. But would you really believe that? Because the positivity rate in Goa at the moment is 11.11%. So how exactly are we looking at these numbers? Should we keep waiting in to understand and restrict sort of restrictions on ourselves and curb our daily routines waiting for government, or is this something that we need to do straight away? That's something we'll pick up with our doctors now. Joining me on the broadcast is Dr. Manish Manan, HOD Pediatrics, Paras Hospital in Gurugram. We've got Dr. Hariprasad with us. He's the president of Apollo Group Hospitals. And also with us is Dr. Lakkadwala, advisor to BMC for COVID Jumbo Centers. Dr. Lakkadwala, if I can begin with you. Mumbai figures, Maharashtra figures are worrying, but at least it's one of those states which is extremely transparent about these numbers. We've seen some quick response actually come in. BMC commissioner there saying that in case cases go above 20,000, there will be a lockdown. My question to you, sir, is this. While we admit, at least from top experts in the country, the COVID task force, that this is a third wave, we are in middle of it. Whether or not, like I said, our politicians would like to say it up front, would like to bring in curbs up front about it as well. What about citizens right now who are still awaiting a booster dose? Could you first take us through who, according to you, is the most vulnerable in the population right now? People who need to self-impose restrictions if they want to stay safe.
Good morning, Sonal. Well, we do know that Maharashtra has been the one state which has shown the maximum numbers right from the first, second, third wave right now. It's been most transparent with the numbers, like you said. One thing we need to understand is that whatever we do right now, starting with the booster doses, is not going to protect you during this third wave. The third wave is well and truly here. It will take some time before the booster dose kicks in. So what the citizens do need to do, and like you asked me, the vulnerable group are those who are immunocompromised, those probably people who are taking cancer chemotherapy for whatever reasons, who are immunocompromised because of anti-HIV treatment, or for various other reasons, who are much older than 60 years of age. Those
and
people
got their vaccines quite early, yeah.
Yeah, those people who've got diabetes. So kid yourself not that if you've got 2 doses of vaccine, even if you've got infected previously, the Omicron has shown that it can beat all this and still infect you. So the most and important thing to do, irrespective of what the government does, is for people to follow COVID appropriate behavior. Please do not let your mask down, irrespective of whatever. Treat every person who comes in front of you as a potential person who can infect you. I think that's what we as citizens can do to protect ourselves. The numbers will rise. Omicron has shown that the rise is far, far faster than the Delta variant.
Right. Dr. Lakkadwala, stay on with us. I have a question about hospitalization as well, but let me go around the table once to get everybody's first comments. Dr. Hariprasad, if I can come to you next and get your view. So what I'm understanding from Dr. Lakkadwala also is that healthcare workers and frontline workers who got their vaccines pretty early, those with comorbidities, those above 60, those with compromised immunity systems, all these people perhaps need to be extra careful as of this moment. Doesn't matter if you've had a natural infection. Don't be in this delusion that that's going to safeguard you. You got to take care of your health yourself right now and ensure that you are not stepping out until absolutely essential.
Yeah, absolutely. That's perfect. And I think it's not only about them taking care of themselves. It's also about the people surrounding them that they're taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
Because what we see now today is that Omicron is causing a lot of asymptomatic disease or disease with minimal symptoms. The problem when it is causing asymptomatic disease is people don't get tested, and if they don't get tested, they move around in the community as normal individuals. And when they move around in the community as normal individuals, the potential of infecting others is extremely high because they're not careful. So it's not just about the highly vulnerable groups taking care of themselves. It's also about the rest of the community taking care of themselves. It's also about the rest of the people around the high vulnerable group who are taking care of themselves, making sure that they're following the universal precautions, making sure that they're getting vaccinated when it's due to them, and making sure that at the slightest pretext, even with the minimal symptoms, they get tested and make sure that they know that they have the infection and also quarantine themselves. That is equally important because it is these asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic patients who do not know that they have infection who are more likely to spread the infection amongst the vulnerable population than the others.
Right. Dr. Manan, if I can come to you next, if you compare the symptoms as of this moment, Dr. Hariprasad is basically saying at the slightest indication of a symptom, get yourself tested. Have these symptoms also changed since Delta? We knew that loss of taste and smell was one of the key factors that actually got people to think about whether or not it was Delta, whether or not they had COVID. That's of course not the case in Omicron. So take us through some of the key symptoms that you're seeing this time around in this third wave.
Thank you. See, firstly, majority of the people will have no symptoms. Like they said, about 80 to 90% people will have no symptoms at all. And of the remaining who have symptoms, the common symptoms which we are seeing and which are being reported also are basically upper respiratory tract infections like cough, running nose, mild soreness in the throat. You are very right. The loss of taste and smell is not there. I would like to bring about, two studies which have been conducted in Cambridge and Hong Kong on hamsters in the lab. So what they have seen is this particular variant, it spares the lungs. So it generally affects only the upper respiratory tract infection. That is probably the reason why, as of now, till date, the cases have been mild and the hospitalization is significantly less. So that's probably one of the reasons. So it appears to be a much milder variant, just like common cold. But important is that 80 to 90% people will have nothing, no symptoms at all.
So upper respiratory tract infections being seen, and it's sparing the lungs is what you're saying as well. So watch out for your cough and cold, especially this time of the year. But you also mentioned that hospitalizations are not taking place. But Dr. Lakharwala, is that the trend in Mumbai? We've actually seen out of the 8,000 cases that came out, around 500, in fact 576, if my memory serves me right, were actually in hospitals. And out of those 570 odd cases, a double digit was actually seen on oxygen support as well.
So Sonal, the first part of your question, that are people getting hospitalized? Yes. The numbers have gone through the roof in the last 1 week or so, only because Mumbai has a large population of people who cannot isolate because they are clustered in slums and stuff like that, and they don't want to infect their parents, their children, people around them, and that's the reason for admission, not the severity of the disease. Second thing is, what we've seen with this Omicron variant is that, yes, number of people requiring oxygen is far less than the Delta variant. Number of people, and like what Dr. Manan said, it probably doesn't infect the lungs, and that's probably the reason why people are not needing oxygen. People are not needing ventilators. So number of ICU admissions, we have plenty of beds. We still have beds even in the jumbo facilities for admitting people, but the numbers have gone through the roof in the last week or so. It's jumped up by more than 100% admissions.
So are you seeing anybody on oxygen support, and who are these people? I remember during Delta, we saw at least 90% of those on oxygen support were diabetics. Most of them were males as well. We had sort of, learned that category on what was actually and what kind of people were actually taking the maximum hit of this virus.
So compared to the Delta variant, 2-3 changes I've seen. One is that the monoclonal antibodies, if injected in the first 72 hours, as in the Delta variant, is not as effective in the Omicron. It's been seen more in older people, irrespective of whether the fact that they've had 2 doses of Covishield or Covaxin or any other vaccine as well. So we are seeing that there is a very minuscule percentage of people who are requiring oxygen, but that should not be, because the numbers rise, that minuscule percent will still be significant enough to fill up ICU beds. So we should be on the guard.
And these are diabetics, these are people with comorbidity. Who are these people?
Most of them are immunocompromised because of old age, not necessarily diabetic, but a lot of obese people who are getting this more than the general population.
I see. So obese people, you're seeing them in your ICUs, you're seeing immunocompromised people as well, and older people as well. Can I come to Dr. Hariprasad next? Then, Dr. Prasad, then, it's so hard for us to be sitting over here and asking people to ensure that they are doing their bit when we see our netas not doing their bit, flouting all sort of laws, flouting all sort of curbs day after day. Just this morning, we've seen Arvind Kejriwal test positive as well. He's been across 3 states because elections are taking place. As doctors who are watching over this third wave now, we've seen what second wave had in store as well. What would your advice be, recommendations be to our netas and politicians right now who are the first to enforce curbs but to last to follow them?
Well, we know one thing for certain. The tools that we have in hand to prevent this infection are limited. We paid a heavy price during the second wave. And the tools are very simple: masking, social distancing, avoiding crowds, and getting immunized, hand sanitation. Now, irrespective of what the event is, irrespective of the purpose of the event, the tools for prevention remain the same. And irrespective of what the profession of the individual is, what they are following, the tools remain the same. So whether it's the politicians, whether it's the social gathering, whether it's a cultural gathering, whatever may be the gathering, I imagine that we need to make sure that we follow these 5-6 principles to avoid the spread of infection. Otherwise, we are likely to land ourselves in deep trouble. The Omicron virus is supposed to be less infective, more infective, and cause lesser severe form of the disease. Hospitalizations are supposed to be lower. Intensive care or admissions are supposed to be lower. But imagine in a population, because it is more contagious, more number of people are going to get infected. Much more number of people are going to get infected than in the second wave. And even if a small percentage of them need hospitalization, our healthcare infrastructure is going to be once more inundated with patients, and we would not be able to support the need of the community. So I think everybody needs to play a part in this, and we need to make sure that we avoid a situation where the healthcare infrastructure gets overwhelmed like it got during the second wave.
Well, cannot agree more, and we can only hope that our leaders are also listening into this, and the Election Commission is also listening into this. These election rallies turning out to be super spreader events as well. These are rallies, and people often don't get this perspective. And so important to remember, whenever a rally is organized, the politicians invite people. It's not just about people gathering. It's an invitation to a gathering which is going out by politicians in middle of a third wave. This needs to stop. Who will actually do this, we do not know. Last word very quickly, Dr. Manish, if you want to quickly go through that.
So, politicians should lead by example. Very rightly said so. The people should follow. Yes, Omicron is more infective, less severe, but as Dr. Hariprasad said, if in such a large population, the demography of a country like ours, the spread is rapid, even if a minuscule people require hospitalization, that will be a problem. So, if we follow simple methods like masking, social distancing, and hand washing, I think if everybody does that, we probably won't even need lockdowns. Simple, basic things. You see, in US, there are hardly any lockdowns, but people are following those norms. And very rightly said by Dr. Hariprasad, the leaders should set an example. On one hand, you go to those rallies, you invite people. On the other hand, you ask people to close down their shops and their livelihoods. This doesn't match. It has to match, So
But politicians not shutting shop in this election season, and that's something that is of a major concern as of this moment. We leave it there for the moment. Thank you all for joining us. Stay safe, stay healthy. We know all of you also got your shots pretty early on and are seeing patients, continue to see patients in this time as well. So thank you for that. We're going to slip into a break. When we return, we continue to look at the top stories at this hour. Stay tuned. The NEET PG counselling issue, for which Centre has sought an earlier hearing that is scheduled for 6th of January, is still under consideration by the Supreme Court. A batch of petitions challenging the Centre's decision to introduce EWS OBC reservation in NEET were filed in the Supreme Court, and Centre had yesterday cited urgency as well in this matter. So Kirti Dwivedi joins us for the very latest. So Kirti, the affidavit by the Centre is clear on which way they want this to go, and a special request coming in by Justice Chandrachud.
The centre had cited urgency before the Supreme Court and had sought a hearing for today. However, it's not going to come up in the court today, but there is still the possibility of the case being heard tomorrow still remains open, as the Supreme Court is still considering this issue. Yesterday, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud had assured the centre that he will speak to the Chief Justice of India on formulating a special bench of 3 judges. So that is also again an elaborate process that would require pulling out at least 2 more judges from other benches which are scheduled to hear other matters. So if a matter is supposed to be heard out of turn, like in this case the NEET PG counselling issue, then other matters of course get disrupted. So there is a lot of back and forth that is needed on the matter, and that is what is possibly leading to this request being considered and the delay that is still happening. But the possibility of the case being heard tomorrow still remains open, and definitely the Supreme Court has given an assurance to the centre that they understand that the matter is serious and they are looking into it. So the students may have to wait a little longer. The scheduled date was January 6th. All eyes now on whether the Supreme Court hears this matter tomorrow.
Alrighty, wait to see what comes out of that. Thanks, Sukirti, for joining us. Let's switch our focus with news coming in from Kerala now, where the survivor of the 2017 kidnapping and sexual assault case has written to the Chief Minister of Kerala and the State Police Chief seeking justice. The survivor has sought for re-investigation in the case days after a film director made fresh allegations against one of the accused in the matter. Another actor, Dilip, who has been charged with conspiracy. The letter seeks for a detailed probe into these allegations as well. Sneha Merikoshi joins us for the very latest. Sneha, what exactly are the details of this so-called re-investigation that has been asked for?
Well, there are a couple of things, Sonal. One is perhaps this letter coming at a very crucial point, and the letter speaks about 2 developments. One, about the film director who has made very scathing, fresh, latest allegations against one of the accused in this case, Dilip. Now, the survivor mentions about the allegations, and the prosecution in the case has already moved the trial court asking for re-investigations with respect to allegations against Dilip. And so is now the survivor seeking a probe into the allegations by the Kerala police and has written to the Chief Minister. Now, the allegations vary. One, from attempts of the alleged attempts of accused Dilip to influence witnesses. The accused allegedly watched the tape of the sexual assault in a group even before it was produced before the court, as well as allegations that the accused, that the director had seen one of the prime accused in this case in the house of this other accused actor, Dilip. Now, these are the allegations. The survivor has written, let there be a probe. There's also a second major concern being raised, that at such a critical junction, when there's a deadline of 16th February, a second special public prosecutor in this case has quit the case. And that has raised concerns over this whole process of justice. And the survivor has written to the Chief Minister and the State Police Chief. So a very critical stage in this particular trial underway, and the survivor writing this letter. Back to you, Sonal.
Thanks, Neha, for that. We'll keep a very close tab on that story.